Mr. Secretary, I'm going to ask you let's just get back to this issue. Will you commit to abide by all laws and ethics requirements regarding your prior employment with regard to Raytheon? Unequivocally.
Absolutely. And can I make one other point on this?
You may.
I think it's important. It'll take me 30 seconds. President Obama strongly believed in ethics in government. As he was staffing out his cabinet in 2009, he reached out to the top lobbyist at Raytheon at the time, and he brought him into his government to be the Deputy Secretary of Defense with only a one-year recusal, because he was a good man and he was an ethical man. And that person, by the way, was confirmed unanimously by this committee and went to the floor of the Senate and was confirmed by the vote of 93-4. Because I think that was the right decision to make. I thought that person brought a great.
Let me raise another issue. I had a bunch of questions, but this is important. You saw Senator Round, Senator Cotton raise this issue as well. Senator Warren casually throws out the word corruption. Casually throws out the word corruption. Hopefully you're going to get a little stink on it. In your 27 years of service to your country, as a military officer, as a staffer, as someone who's gone to war for America, have you ever been accused of corruption before?
No, sir. Never in my life.
Thank you. You and I have had many good meetings. I appreciated our visits up in Alaska. Let me highlight a couple areas where I think the Pentagon needs to focus more. You've heard a lot about allies from both sides, which I think is important. You talked about the National Defense Strategy. Senator Hawley was talking about China. I think the National Defense Strategy does a great job in terms of raising the issue of the rise of China and our focus on the Indo-Pacific. One area where I think we need to do a better job is our force posture in the region. Will you commit to work with this committee with regard to our force posture in the Indo-Pacific?
Yes, sir, because I think it's wholly consistent with the National Defense Strategy, which is what I'm committed to do.
Let me talk to the issue of the Arctic. I don't want to disappoint Senator King by not raising these issues, so I will. You know, it does seem like most agencies in town, with the exception of the Pentagon, are focused on this. You may have seen Secretary Pompeo gave a very important speech on the strategic interests we have. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to submit for the record several articles just in the last couple of weeks that focus on Russia, China's interest in the Arctic, how it's a strategic area, how a lot of Washington is waking up to this, with the exception of the Pentagon. You and I have talked about this a lot. Let me just give you one example. The Russians are doing all kinds of things, new ports, new airfields, new military commands in the Arctic. Putin's talking about the Arctic as the new Suez Canal, and that they're going to control. And we had a provision in this year's NDAA that just said America should have a port, which it doesn't have right now, that could handle resupplying a destroyer, not even an aircraft carrier, in the Arctic. The Pentagon opposed this. Fortunately, this committee rolled the Pentagon's bad advice. Can you commit to me to work with this committee to taking a strong look, a personal look, at America's strategic and military interests in the Arctic and how to protect those?
Yes, Senator, I do.
Let me talk a little bit about Alaska. Mr. Secretary, you had the opportunity to visit Alaska as Secretary of the Army. I like to say Alaska constitutes three pillars of America's military might. We're the cornerstone of missile defense. We're a platform for expeditionary forces like the 425 and the 1st Stryker Brigade, which is getting ready to go to Iraq. And we're the hub of air combat power for the Arctic and the Asia-Pacific. As a matter of fact, by the end of next year, we will have over 100 fifth-generation combat-coded fighters based in Alaska. Because of our strategic location, because of the fact, as Billy Mitchell did say, again, I don't want to disappoint Senator King, that Alaska was the most strategic place in the world, given its strategic location. The Air Force is evaluating its OCONUS locations and deployments of KC-46s. Alaska has 50-year-old tankers up there. What kind of strategic message would we send our potential adversaries like Russia, like China, like North Korea, where supersonic fighters can get to these places from Alaska within just a few hours, if we were to co-locate over 100 fifth-generation fighters with KC-46 tankers in such a strategic area? What kind of message would we be sending, and will you commit to work with me and this committee for the most strategic OCONUS placements of our KC-46 fleet when the Air Force is looking to do that?
I will, Senator.
And what kind of message would that co-location
Well,
send?
I think what it would send, you know, it's hypothetical, is that we are committed to the NDS and we'd have extreme strategic reach if you were to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator